Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Rip Current podcast, episode number 2 now. We hope you tuned in for last week's episode, a little bit brief. This week it's going to be the full everything. We got the full everything here on a great Tuesday. Should be a good one. We're going to talk about Grant Mayeaux getting tossed from the game the other day, Grant MacArthur as well. That was certainly a fun one. We're obviously going to talk about all the games that we played. A preview for next week. We are going to talk about the promotions. I heard something about our favorite baseball movie as well later on down the show. It's going to be fun. And then obviously our Player of the Week roundtable. That will be a segment we do every single week. But let's start off. Quick introduction to our new guest today, Huon. Welcome in. So we did a intro for all of us last time. We want to hear first your name, obviously, what school you go to. We hear you're an athlete, so maybe tell us what sport you play, and then your favorite baseball team and your favorite player.
Hey guys, I'm Huon. I go to Emerson College on the East Coast in Boston. And Andrew said I play baseball there at Emerson, so I broadcast and also play baseball. Unfortunately, not at that level to play for the Riptide, but still pretty fun to play college baseball. Um, yeah, my favorite team is, despite being from San Diego, I'm a Giants fan. My dad grew up in the Bay Area, raised me Giants fan. I think my current favorite player, I'd probably say Logan Webb. I mean, I'm a pitcher, so I'm biased towards pitchers. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, the way his stuff moves and how he dominates a lot of really good hitters. I'd say he's my favorite player right now.
Oh, there we go. So we got Huon, Aidan, Sam, and then myself, Andrew Giesler. So we're going to take a look at the breakdown of last week and the scores of what happened. First was Tuesday. Well, it was kind of a undesigned off day, if you want to say. Everyone came out for BP. Still, there's a bus issue from the Foresters, which got fixed. So it was a originally a 7 o'clock game, or was it a 6 o'clock game, guys?
I think it was a
I think it
six or
was seven.
seven. It might have been seven. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I
it
think it
was.
was. I think it was seven.
Okay.
So 7 o'clock game. Foresters were heading over from Santa Barbara, which isn't that close to San Diego. They have a bus issue in Ventura area where Conejo is, and so we're like, "Are we going to have a game?" It turns out they fixed the bus issue, and then 3 minutes later, the bus had another issue. So that game was canceled. We're going to be replaying that game next week on Monday. Not exactly sure when first pitch is for that one, but we will get that information to you guys. It was supposed to be a home and home, so we traveled on Wednesday out to Santa Barbara, ended up losing 9-8 against the Foresters in walk-off fashion, the wrong direction. So tough loss for the Tide. We beat the Oaks 14-3 and then lost to the Blues the next day 3-2, and on Sunday beat the Bombers 4-3. So a lot to unpack there. Let's start, I guess, with the Foresters game. I think it was Sam and Aidan on the call, correct? So what
Yeah.
was your guys' opinions on that game?
Obviously, it was a heartbreaking loss. It was a walk off, but I think if for the Riptide, you like the fight you saw. I mean, they were down 8-3 heading into the ninth inning. They score 5 runs with their backs pinned against the wall, sent to the bottom of the ninth. Didn't get a couple calls that went their way, and the Foresters just came out on top. But I think if you look at this game for the Riptide, if they can hang with Santa Barbara, they can hang with anybody in this league.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it really took the Riptide sort of having self-inflicted wounds in that game to lose on the road against what's been the class of the CCL this year, it was all about the Riptide just not having control. Jack O'Malley and Tom McGuire, who started the game, O'Malley came in relief. They both sort of lost control of the baseball. McGuire walked in a couple of runs in the first, and then O'Malley walked in several runs in the eighth, at which point the Riptide were trailing by 5 before that chaotic ninth inning where the Riptide tied it from 8-3 to 8-8 and then eventually the walk-off. But the fact that you needed sort of to beat yourself in order to lose to such a good team like Santa Barbara, I think is really promising for the rest of the season for Orange County.
Yeah, and that's somewhat uncharacteristic from Tommy McGuire. Normally we see him with some really, really solid control and just like kind of didn't really have his stuff when they played the Foresters. Uh Nato as well, he somewhat struggled, didn't have any walks, but let up 2 runs. That's at least what I have in my scorebook. Telfer gave up 2 hits, no runs, no walks, had 2 strikeouts in that game. And Hickey, I mean, he pitched the majority of that game. He's been doing well. It's those middle relievers for the Riptide that have really stayed strong in this past week, at least. Huon, you have anything on that game in the Foresters, or you want to jump over to the game against the Oaks?
I mean, we can talk about the Oaks. I wasn't there for Santa Barbara. I saw it was a good game. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way. But as Aidan said, I think if you can hang with the Foresters, obviously they lead the entire CCL. They're 10-1 with that game against the Oaks up in the air, and then the rescheduled game against us as well. But if you can hang with a team like that, then that's good going forward for the Riptide.
All right, so let's jump over to the game against the Oaks. We were all at that one. It was a long one. That is for sure. 3 hours and 49 minutes to be exact. It was a 14-3 win from the Riptide. Very close in the beginning, not very close in the end. That was kind of the story of all of it. Bats got really hot for the Riptide, and pitching, kind of stayed hot the entire time. So we're just going to leave it open to anybody. What are the initial thoughts from that game?
I thought it was the most complete game we've seen the Riptide play all year long. They were calm and confident in the batter's box. They didn't try to do too much. It was sort of just about, a walk here, a single there. It wasn't necessarily, a big home run or anything that sparked it for the Riptide. And on the pitching end, Mike Earthbomber.
Not like this. All right.
Well, I can build off of what Sam was trying to say there.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think the pitching staff was had a phenomenal day. Earthbomber, a good quality start from him, and you also like what you saw from Helman and Smith. 16 strikeouts and just 1 walk issued, and that's something that the Riptide have improved on going down the line, just limiting the number of walks they gave up. And Andrew, you and I were on the call, and I remember just after the first couple innings, it was a pitching though. We were taking off our headsets in between breaks and going like, "Wow, we have ourselves a game." And just towards the back half, the Riptide blew it wide open.
And there goes Sam. So Huon, what was your thoughts from that game?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good game, as Sam said, all around. Like the defense, it lapsed a little bit in the ninth inning just because there was lack of focus, how big the score was. But I thought the defense was really solid, which has definitely been a struggle for the Riptide this summer. Again, the offense was really good. It was a close game. It was contested, and then the offense just kind of woke up, exploded, back-to-back 5-run innings. I thought Earthbomber was really, really good. He got his first start of the summer. He's been good out of the bullpen. We hadn't seen him start yet. He went really solid, had 6 strikeouts in that game, and he's a really young pitcher. He just finished high school, so to see that out of him was really impressive. He's been one of the better arms for the Riptide, and to see him start, I thought that was really good out of him. And yeah, just what Sam said, a really complete game. And it was really surprising as well. The Oaks came into that game as a really good team. They were ahead of us in the standings. Their offense had been really good. Their pitching had been pretty good as well, and we really shut them down. So I thought it was a good win for the Riptide.
Yeah, before I give things back over to Sam for him to finish his thought, we only heard about 4 words of that, unfortunately. We heard it was a very complete, the best complete game, which all of us agreed with. Earthbomber pitched very, very well, other than basically the first batter, where, if I'm not mistaken, it was a first pitch triple off of Earthbomber. So, other than that, he only gave up one other hit, and that was in that first inning. So, Sam, go ahead, finish your thoughts on that game against the Oaks.
Yeah, sorry for the technical issues there. I'll be brief since I'm pretty sure you guys will have said the similar thing, but I just thought the Riptide bats did a great job of being calm and confident, didn't try to do too much, took walks, took singles when they came. Mike Ersbom, Nathan Helman were nails from the start and then out of the bullpen. I thought it was the best performance the Riptide have put together on both sides of the baseball against a really solid Oaks team, like Huon said.
Yeah, and I was looking through my scorebook. I forgot about our non-league game as well for this week. It was the Riptide against the Nighthawks 8-6 final. Ramos got the start in that game, and then Banky came in and Morrissey as well. It looked like a different kind of lineup than we normally would see for the Riptide. Batting first was Cam Burdick, and I loved that a lot. Bless you, Sam. And he had 4 steals in that game. Stole second, stole third, stole home, which I think was a balk, but it was very close. I think he would have had the steal either way. And then in his next at bat, stole second. It was to the point where I think Kuhn and I had to search up what the record for steals was in a game, or it might have been Aidan and I. One of us had to search up the record for steals in a game, which was 7. So we had to be somewhat worried about that. But thoughts from that non-conference game for the Riptide?
I think you said it, Andrew. It was a good chance to see the depth of the roster. One guy that stood out to me was Henry McDonald getting his first start behind the dish. He's a young guy out of Cal Poly, and I thought he did a great job. His first at bat, he hit a big double and was walked later on in the game. So I think that's a guy I'm looking forward to seeing more of this summer.
Yeah, Grant MacArthur got his first start at third. Brady Pettit, his first start at shortstop. We'd seen them at other positions earlier in the summer, and I thought, especially MacArthur, it was sort of good to see him continue to stay hot. He had multiple hits in that game, and you could sort of feel him starting to heat up. It's been a slow start to the summer for him, but I think he's becoming more and more a part of this Riptide lineup that's so deep.
Yeah, and Andrew, you talked about Burdick moving up to that leadoff spot. We'd normally seen him in the 9-hole spot, kind of that second leadoff, as Coach Evans likes to call it, and we haven't really seen his bat be all that effective in that spot. I mean, he's had some good at bats, he's gotten on base, but I feel like him being in that leadoff spot, we talked about the 3 to 4 steals, the play at home still up in the air, but the really aggressive base running, he got on base a lot with walks and hits. So I think if they, in similar games like this, if they can keep Burdick in that leadoff spot and kind of get him to start the offense instead of getting in the back end, I think that could really provide something good for the Riptide going forward.
And here's kind of the problem with why Burdick can't, in quotes, be the leadoff guy, because you have someone like Bradley Navarro, who right now is batting .454 with an on-base percentage of .577 and hasn't struck out in 39 plate appearances. How do you replace that? How do you replace that? I mean, you have Jake Evans as well, who the bat is not necessarily as, I'm not going to say not as hot, but he isn't hitting as high as for mid 4s with what Navarro was. He's still in the high 2s, but on base percentage of .500. So he walks like none other. He's a magnet to the baseball. The thing is always hitting him. And if you're Burdick, the issue there is you strike out just a little bit too much. He has 11 strikeouts so far this season, and that's just something that, as a leadoff guy, if you're working against a guy who only has 1 strikeout has a strikeout in 39 plate appearances, yeah, that's kind of the issue. I think he is a good second leadoff guy, as Coach Evans calls him. But on a day where a lot of guys are getting rest, he definitely can be put in that leadoff spot. So we go after the Nighthawks, unless anybody has any closing thoughts on that. I'm not seeing any nods. So after the Nighthawks, we already talked about the Oaks. Now we move on to the game against the Blues. That was a loss 3-2, a very tight game. Another one that we saw both ends of the spectrum. We saw blowout games this week, and then we saw pitching duels. And if we were to talk about pitching duels, I'm bringing up this game. Sealy got his first start on the mound for the Riptide, and it was a tough start for him. It was a good Blues team who was coming off of a 20-4 loss to the Barons. And I'm saying it's a good Blues team still because they're a good team. And everything, if a team plays really well anywhere in the CCL, they're going to have success against any other team. So let's start off. We have Sealy getting his first start. Middle bullpen did really well when Muckley and then Suarez as well, who had his first appearance. Grant he only allowed one run. I can't say he didn't do well. He did well. So what are our thoughts in this lineup? We had what you would think to be the top lineup that you could put together for the Riptide in. What were your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, you just didn't score enough runs offensively today, or on that day. It really felt like the team just couldn't get anything going, and that's going to happen. That's part of baseball. There's going to be days where balls just don't fall in. It felt like the Riptide, every single time they got a runner on, they just couldn't capitalize. You'd ground into a double play, or the single would come with 2 outs, and the inning would come to an end. So it just felt like you weren't able to string hits together, and that's is what it is, unfortunately. It was a great effort from the pitching staff. We sort of got unlucky in the ninth inning. Dane Grant gave up like a blooper down the line that dropped in for a triple. So it was just sort of a tough break and one of those games for the Riptide, but they'll bounce back and grow from it.
Yeah,
I was talking to
Aiden, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Dylan. Okay. Yeah, I was talking to Mayeaux yesterday, just pregame, and the message I got was you can't be upset at all about that slow Blues loss because at the end of the day, both teams were neck and neck. At the end, it just came down to the Blues making more plays. They were the better team in the end. But some positives you take out of that is you limit the defensive errors, just one, and a good pitching performance like Andrew talked about, where you just give up one walk. So I think that sets up a good matchup which we'll talk about later against the Slows this week.
Yeah, so I have that the Riptide had 9 hits during the game and were walked twice. No hit by pitches, so we're at 11 times that they at least got on base, and they left 3, 4, 5, 6 on base. So that is clearly an issue. It definitely is an issue. Obviously, there was force outs, double plays, whatever. So just getting those runs around it and runners in scoring position. I as well have talked with Grant Mayeaux, who has been so open with us. He's been absolutely awesome this past little bit. And he was saying, yeah, well, with runners in scoring position, we've got to somewhat tighten up our approach. We've got to be thinking to get those runs around. We can't be striking out with runners in scoring position. And that's something that's been a small issue, but definitely something that is being worked on. I can guarantee you that is something that we have been told. And in that kind of same sentence, something that we were told was being worked on was the errors. And we look, it is significantly better from last episode to this episode, where defense is making plays for their pitchers. And there's been a few tough plays that have been made, singles up the middle played by whoever is at second base. Evans has been playing second base. He's been doing a great job over there. And Rosales as well. They've been making some great plays, and the only errors that we see really are kind of just tough plays that happen not being made. So any closing thoughts on that Blues game? I think it's going to be I'm excited to preview that one for next week. I think definitely it should be a good matchup the next time we play. If there's no closing thoughts, quickly, we want to hear a word from one of our sponsors. So Experian is your BFF, big financial friend, big enough to have the resources and knowledge that have an impact, personal enough to help with what's best for only you. No matter where you are in your financial journey, your big financial friend is a trustworthy companion by your side. Wherever you are in your financial journey, your big financial friend is ready to help you navigate the smartest way to reach all your personal financial goals with solutions you can trust. This is Experian, your big financial friend for life. For more information, go to Experian.com. All right, welcome back, everybody. So we're going to go to the Bombers game. But the big storyline, other than the fact that the Tide got the win, 4-3, was we got 2 ejections. Both Grants. Grant MacArthur, Grant Mayeaux. See ya. Bye-bye. They were tossed. It was a 3-2 count to set the scene for everybody. A 3-2 count, and the ball may or may not have missed off the plate. It it, it looked like it might have, and Grant MacArthur had already thrown his bat away. He was already walking down the first baseline before the home plate umpire rung him up on a called strike 3. MacArthur didn't like that. He said some words as he was walking past. I'm not sure exactly what it was. And then he was tossed. So obviously Grant Mayeaux is going to come in and defend his player like a great coach should. He's an interim head coach. Doesn't mean he's still not a coach. So he comes in, defends his player. Looks like he's doing a great job of doing it. He spins around. As he does that, see you later. So both of them were tossed. Let's quickly go to what we heard from Coach Mayeaux after the game the other day and hear his thoughts.
Grant MacArthur didn't like the call. It's called strike 3. Personally, I agree with MacArthur. The umpire said that MacArthur said something which he did not say. I was standing right here. I could hear everything. MacArthur had a couple words for him. As he was walking back to the dugout, the umpire threw him out. And, you know, I like to think I'm a player's coach. Like, I'm going to stick up for my guy. So I went up to the umpire and I asked him, like, what happened. And he said that MacArthur used some expletives towards him. I said that didn't happen. You can't be that soft. You can't be that selfish, whatever I said. I kind of blacked out, but I just basically told him, you're being really sensitive, and he didn't like it. I turned around and started to walk back to the dugout. I said a couple more things to him and threw me out and spiked the helmet and told him he was that sensitive. So, but, I always try to have my guys' backs. I always want to make sure that they feel like I've got their back. So really it's just kind of like protecting the player. But honestly, I really didn't think he deserved to be thrown out for that. So unfortunately, somebody's got to go with him, and it was me today. So.
Okay. So we heard his thoughts. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the situation as a whole of both of them getting tossed from the game. What are we thinking after that? And then we'll go into the game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I thought MacArthur had a right to argue. I mean, from our view, Sam and I at the radio booth, it definitely looked like ball 4, and then our wonderful stats people sent us the TrackMan strike zone a couple innings later, and it showed that that pitch was indeed a couple inches below the zone. So MacArthur definitely had a right to argue, and obviously Mayeaux standing up for his player. And I think it's definitely the umpire. I was talking about this with Sam. Like, it's the umpire's job to kind of dispel the situation. And obviously, players are going to be mad. It's baseball; it happens. But you got to dispel the situation and kind of cool everybody off and let the game continue. And I think that situation was handled pretty poorly. MacArthur had a reason to argue he was mad, but there was no reason to kind of throw him out when he's walking away. Same with Mayeaux. He was kind of being a good facilitator, just calming the situation down, and then he turned his back and he was gone too. So I just think it wasn't handled very well at all, and I think both the Grants did a great job and had the right to be upset.
And MacArthur was tossed immediately. There was that was quick. That was really, really fast. Mayeaux might have been a little bit longer. He had a little bit more time before the leash was kind of pulled. Anybody else thoughts about that, or do we want to hop into what happened in the game? I thought that too, and you said that really well. All right, let's hop into the game. So 4-3 win. It was another good win against a Bombers team that we had split previously. We lost opening day and then won. And I think it was game 5. We played them the second time, ended up winning in that one. And so playing this 2-6 Bombers team, ended up winning again. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good job from the offense to sort of answer back and pick up the pitching staff when they had to. They only scored 4 runs in the game. They gave up a run in the first, immediately responded by scoring 2 in the bottom of the first. The Bombers come back, they tie the game. The Riptide immediately scored 2 and not just get a lead back, but actually make it a 2-run lead instead. And I think that really says a lot about the heart of this team. And, it certainly helps you if you're a pitcher on the mound, hey, if I give up a run here, my team is going to answer back and help me out. So I was really impressed by that from the Riptide.
And I thought it was also cool to see the debut of Casey Uper and Nick Bond out there. And for the most part, they looked pretty good. And obviously, we know the ejections happened. So maybe that lit a fire up in the guys. But the Riptide, despite getting less hits than the Bombers, were able to take advantage of when they were able to get guys on. It was a close ball game. And it's good to see that they were able to finish it off.
And I had heard from I have sources, of course, and I had heard from a team up north that they've already had 5 ejections on their team, and they in fact had 2 as well on Sunday. So maybe the North, their umpires they're just going to toss people left and right, because 5 by this point is pretty crazy, but still kind of funny. That was for the first 2 we've had so far this season, and we're within a minute of each other. Next segment is going to be the Pear Tree Meets, where, well, we get to do food reviews, and that has been certainly very, very fun, not only for us, but also the players as well who come up into the booth. We've had Tommy McGuire this week. We've had Nate Helman this week. We had Zach Crandall this week, who ended up going out and actually playing. I'm sure you're going to hear a little bit more from that in a second. And Jimmy Zakhar. I know Aidan and I were there for Nate Helman, Zach Crandall, Jimmy Zakhar. I think it was Aidan and Sam with Tommy McGuire. Huon, you're gonna get some people next week, so you're gonna have a whole lot of fun in this segment next week, because man, is it fun to have these players up there. Let's first cut, and we'll see our favorite moments from this past week.
We got snow cones up here. I think we've got to try it out.
Yeah, let's do that. It's pretty good. Got a little orange in there. I think this is pineapple. Solid snow cone.
A lot of syrup as well. That's a good snow. I feel like you can't mess up a snow cone.
No, it's pretty hard to do that.
What's your go-to dessert?
Oh, geez. When they'd closed down just basically every Rite Aid in existence just recently, but back when they were open a couple months ago, they had a Thrifty ice cream. Going there, $1 for a scoop the size of your hand. You can't really beat it. I love that. I just love ice cream in general.
Is there a particular guy in the dugout or in the bullpen who you think is especially funny?
So I have 2 answers for this. I'm going to give you a sneaky answer of Bradley Navarro.
Okay.
Wow. He was at Cypress with me this year. He's a quiet dude, doesn't say much. Like, it's hard to get him to talk, but he has his moments. And the answer that I'm surprised people haven't said yet is Jimmy Zakhar.
Oh, Jimmy's funny.
That guy's hilarious.
Classic combos, right? Surf and turf,
Okay.
PB&J, bacon and eggs. I want to introduce to you brisket and chocolate chip cookies. Got another bite here. Curveball hits outside.
That's a good cookie.
Very good cookie.
It is. I like the little sea salt on top.
yeah.
Adds a good little twang to it, if that's a word you can use.
No, absolutely.
I don't know if that's
Absolutely.
the word. It's fun to be out on the field. It's fun to, chirp guys. It's fun to, I chirp my own guys sometimes. You gotta keep it loose and fun. So I think that's the biggest thing. And, yeah, you got to have fun with everybody. Mm-hmm. It's fun being a catcher because you're hanging out with the position players.
Right.
And you get to talk with the pitchers as well. So I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of being a catcher.
So, hypothetically, your pitcher hits 2 batters in a row or walks someone. You're going to go out there as a catcher. What's the conversation like?
Conversation isn't anywhere remotely close to baseball. As much as I want to say that it is, I try to keep the pitcher's mind off of things, try to keep it loose, try to keep it fun. Questions could range from anywhere from what'd you have for breakfast or anything. It could be any sort of question. Just trying to keep it fun and loose.
When's the last time that you hit?
Oh, man. In a game, high school, my senior year, I struck out. It was like our last game. It's like the last inning. It was like just get an AB. So I K'd on 3 pitches. But I just like the warm jacuzzi, rest, recover, just relax. That's just my favorite. It's my favorite.
Aiden, you got a jacuzzi?
I don't, but now I feel like I gotta have one after this conversation.
My dad and my sister have always been pressing for the jacuzzi. I want one also. I don't know what's stopping us from getting one. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, above ground, below, whatever it is, man. You got to get it.
But, we've talked about it a little bit too much. We need to try it.
We do.
We need to
Let's
get going
do it.
here. I would suggest small bite. That's
Okay.
the small bite to start. I went mac first. I'm going to say mac is really, really good.
I did the mac as well. It was very, very good.
And then we got another 0-2 pitch here. We might have to quickly go with brisket after this pitch if Suarez doesn't strike him out.
I think I'm going to use my hands here. The brisket's really good.
Yeah?
Well seasoned, cooked well. I'm a fan. Would recommend.
I took the brisket and mac combo, and that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I think we got to shout out Pear Tree Meats, our caterer here, and just continue to supply us with good barbecue all season long.
You apparently weren't told we had a food review, so you got an entire plate. Let's bring this a little bit closer in here because we're going to need you to review. What else do we have that's new here? You got
So I got the brisket and pork plate. So I already tried the mac, which was great. I tried the biscuit, which is great. Okay. So there's this pulled pork that I have to try now. I'm going hands right away.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, Zach, like on a game day, what's your routine? Like, are you a big food guy before the game or after the game? What's that look like?
Yeah, I try to eat a good amount of food just because, my friends will tell you that I get pretty hangry.
Food-wise before games, will you go big meals, small meals, fast food? What are we thinking?
I'm one of the weird guys out there where I think a lot of times guys will be like, oh, I don't want to keep it light before the game. I'm the opposite. I want to get as much food in my body as I can so that I don't run out of energy later in the game, especially catching. I feel like the games can get long and drag on. So, I'll eat an entire Chipotle bowl before the game.
Well, if you get on base, you think you're ever getting the steal sign?
I mean, I probably wouldn't give myself a steal sign. I don't think I have an official stolen base since junior college.
Oh wow.
Yeah, before they changed the defensive indifference rule for you could get kind of free ones, but
yeah.
All right, so now that we're back from that, let's hear your guys' favorite moments. What was pretty cool from what we talked about?
I think we start with Tommy McGuire, who we had, I believe, on Thursday. That was Sam and I. And Tommy was a great chat. He was a super funny guy, and he gave us a little inside look to the bullpen and also had some good food with Tommy, some snow cones on Hawaiian Day. So I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really cool that Tommy was very honest about the fact that his start on Wednesday did not go the way he wanted. And he just sort of owned that. He talked about how he moves on from a start that isn't ideal.
So a handful more technical difficulties on the back half of that comment, but that's okay. Huon, I want to hear your opinion, kind of going back to that Tommy segment there, where he didn't have the best start. And that's been a lot of people. Sam, welcome back. There's been a lot of, starters and relievers. There's people in the pros that just don't necessarily have a good outing. What's that like for a pitcher? What's kind of the bounce back from that when you don't have a good outing and then you're coming back and you're like, all right, I got to get back into it and back to my form?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of these players have been playing since they were 5 years old or even younger. And it's obviously they've changed going in high school and then into college, but it's pretty much you have a bad start, but you know that you can pitch, you know that you have the stuff to do it, especially a lot of these guys have the velocity and the good stuff to get right back there. So it's just really and with all the technology we have now, you can just go back and look at your stuff and say, I just was doing one thing wrong today, and or sometimes you just don't have it, and that's okay, but you just go back and say, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. I know that I'm capable of doing it. I know what I can do, and you just go out the next time and do it. And we've seen it happen. I'll talk about Caden Muckley. We've seen him 2 not great starts, and he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. He hasn't faced a lot of hitters, so he had 2 not so great outings out of the pen, and then last game against the Nighthawks, I believe, he had a scoreless 1-2-3 inning, and he looked the best he ever had. So he knows that he can do it, and a lot of these guys know they can do it. It's just about having that confidence to not forget about that one start and go out there and just it didn't happen, and we're moving on to the next one.
Yeah, and you're talking about guys who weren't having the best starts and then moved on and then had great appearance. Someone who's been very consistent for the Riptide so far. And the next guy that we had in the booth, it was in the third inning against Aidan. Who was it?
I believe it was the Blues. Yeah, that's the game we had Zach on to as well. Yeah,
it was the Blues, correct. And it was Nate Helman. Nate Helman came in the third inning. He was coming off of a game against the Oaks where he went 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts. And he came in through 6 straight strikes and 2 straight strikeouts. So we were immaculate there for a good little bit, enough where you start thinking about it. And then he threw, I think, ball, and then ended up still striking the guy out looking. So struck the side, out looking. Thought about being immaculate for 2 of those strikeouts, but not ended up being the case. He came in, and it was certainly fun to have him. He kind of got the shorter end of the stick in the fact that he didn't come during the 6th inning when we had the food review, but he was still really funny. Another one of those bullpen guys that everyone raves about in batting practice. The pitchers out in the outfield all getting BP. And then there was Crandall. Crandall came in, and he wasn't told apparently that we were doing a food review. So we got him mac and cheese with the brisket. We tried it. Very good. Very, very, very good. Then top of 6 ends. Bottom of 6 comes up, and he was brought a full brisket pulled pork plate as well. So he had both of those meals. I'm pretty sure he ended up going down and giving one of those away. But it was funny because we were talking with him about how, oh, well, do you like to eat light before a game or before you play? Do you like to eat heavy? And he's like, oh, no, I like to eat before I go up to play. And, well, he came and he pinch hit later in the game, and Aidan and I's reaction was pretty funny because, as we all know, we take people, we ask, I guess it was Coach Mayeaux, but we asked Coach Evans, Coach Mayeaux, whoever. We normally take guys who have no chance of playing, which is why we always take pitchers, because we take guys who pitched the day before, or players that we think there's no chance of pinch hitting. And yet Crandall still came out and pinch hit. He ended up working a walk and getting on. Didn't end up mattering, but still a really funny moment. Aidan, anything else you took away from having either Helman or Crandall up in the booth there?
Yeah, I think that's the fun part about these segments, where these guys, for a pitcher, he pitches the day before, we get him in the booth. We talk about that outing, and we also get to know them a little more just on the personal side. And for Zach Crandall, I remember the moment you're talking about. It's the 9th inning, and we're keeping an eye on the on-deck circle to see if there's any pinch hitters in the game. And you mentioned it. Look who's in the on-deck circle. It's Zach Crandall, and funny moment, not going to lie.
Yeah, let's we've talked about it so much. We got to hear exactly what happened. Let's quickly cut to that.
Better watch the first one bounce just in front of Caruso. And look who's swinging around in the on-deck circle. We had him here earlier. Maybe we got him ready. It is Crandall. 1-0. I mean, he said it. He likes to be fueled before his at-bats. So normally we have people up here who have no chance of playing in the game, but Crandall in the on-deck circle. Fouls one back against the screen. It's a 1-2 count now with 1 out.
And Pettit's got to take care of business here first. But, man, what a story it would be if Zach Crandall is able to come through for the Riptide.
All right, we're back. So Crandall ended up walking in that at-bat. So I at least was certainly nervous because I thought we weren't ever going to do a food review segment ever again after that at-bat. But we didn't because it was 2 outs and he ended up working a walk. So the last person we had up there, Jimmy Zakhar, in maybe the quickest inning of this entire year, we ended up doing a food review of what I thought might be the next dream combination. I said surf and turf. I said PB&J. I said bacon and eggs. And we had brisket and chocolate chip cookies. And I was like, guys, this might be it. I wouldn't say it goes up in the likes of a PB&J, but I did think it was very good. So shout out Pear Tree Meats for helping us out with that segment. And we're definitely going to have Jimmy back up in the booth. I'm sure that Sam and Huon will be able to talk with him next time, because the quickest sixth inning that we've had by a long shot, maybe the quickest inning we've ever had. I mean, it just felt like it went by really quick thanks to pitching on both sides. And if we were to kind of just very quickly touch on the Bombers again, that middle part of the game, the pitching was just so good from both sides. And I think that that's kind of been a story recently for the Riptide, is those middle relievers. Any thoughts you guys have on that?
Yeah, I think that the relief pitching's been great. I just want to touch real quick on Jimmy. I thought it was so cool. He came up before he went in to talk to you guys. Me and Huon are outside on radio, and he's standing outside watching the game when Coach Mayeaux gets tossed. And he was so fired up for Coach Mayeaux. He was yelling at Grant, go get him. I think there were some words that maybe can't be repeated on the podcast, but I think it certainly shows the connection that Jimmy has with, as well as the whole team, with Coach Mayeaux. But yeah, the middle relief was great. It was fantastic. It was a huge part of why the Riptide were able to survive a stretch in which they didn't have a hit for 6 innings in that game from the first to the seventh. When that happens, you're not going to win many games. But because the middle relief did such a good job, they were able to do that today or yesterday.
And he even asked us, well, what happened? Like, I saw Mayeaux get tossed. What even happened for him to get tossed? Because he was coming up right as it happened. And we said, oh, well, MacArthur had a borderline call and he was tossed. So Mayeaux came out and then he was tossed as well. But either way, any parting thoughts before we jump on to next week and looking forward? I'm seeing a whole bunch of no's. Do we get a no from Aidan as well? We're all good. So a thumbs up works as well. So we thank Tommy McGuire, Nate Helman, Zach Crandall, Jimmy Zakhar. We thank all of you so much for coming up into the booth. We had so much fun. We thank Pear Tree Meats for helping us out, because gosh, is that food so good. So moving on from just the fabulous Pear Tree Meats, we'll look quickly at the standings. This is all based on conference play, so the Nighthawks game not counting. But right now, what we have in the South, the Foresters are leading. They're 10-2 right now. The Saints are right behind them at 7-4. Oaks in third place at 7-5. Then you'll find the Tide at 7-6. We're 3.5 games back right now from the Foresters. Moving down one more tier to fifth is the Barons at 4-8. Bombers are 2-6. Waves are 1-3, and Philippines have struggled. They've struggled. They're 1-8 on a 7-game losing streak currently. So a tough one there, and that one win in their column, that's against the Tide, which isn't necessarily amazing, but they won that game. They solidly won that game. And the reason I kind of wanted to bring up the standings is because it's kind of just everyone's beating everyone right now. And I think that is really important. I talked about the Bombers and the 20-4 game that they had a win over the Blues. And the Blues came and they beat the Riptide. So I think it's really interesting that every single team can beat every single team right now. And we're still early on in the season, despite Riptide being 3.5 games back from first in the Foresters. I think that the Foresters, definitely from the teams that we've played, I think all of us can agree they're probably in first. But they do have a few games up in the air because they don't have lights there. Is that true? So
they start at 4:30 and they have to end before the sun obviously sets. So some of these games, if they go extra long and you can't finish it out, there's going to have to be some way to finish it, because you can't play the game when it's dark outside, no lights.
Right, and one of those games that's up in the air, the Foresters aren't winning right now. So they'll add on 2 innings. I think it's against the Saints. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know they are not winning in that game. So They also have a game against us. That will be played next Monday on the 30th. But that's kind of the standings right now. The Riptide are well in the thick of things. I think that it will be a battle all the way down to the last game for the Saints, Oaks, and Tide. I think those three, it's a toss-up. Even though we did beat Conejo by a large margin, we play them multiple times next week, which is a perfect segue into the preview for next week. We'll talk about all the different games. Starting off on Tuesday, we play the Waves at 7. Already played them once. Well, this will be the second time. Wednesday, it will be at the Barons at 6:05. Excuse me. Whole lot of away games this week. Thursday, we'll be heading down to Slow at 6 p.m. We'll try to get our revenge against the Blues. Saturday at Conejo at 4. And then Sunday is versus Conejo at 5:30. So that home and home against Conejo to round things out at the end of the week. I have a feeling that the two teams will probably split the home and home. I think that is a very big likely. But what do you guys think? What are the thoughts when I read those teams off? Waves, Barons, Slow, and then Conejo times 2. What are we thinking for this week?
Well, they beat the Barons last week, so that'll be a game where the Barons are going to look to get revenge and maybe split that matchup. The Blues, you talked about how they lost to them and trying to get one back, but it's going to be interesting because the Riptide, they're 0-2 on the road this year, so they're still looking for that first road win.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see how the team copes with the challenges of being away from the Great Park. The schedule's been very front-loaded with home games for the Riptide. About 2/3 of their games this season are at home, but over the first 3 weeks of the season here, it's been 85% of the games. So getting to go on the road more times this week, there's a little bit of a challenge when you have to take the bus and you don't get as much preparation time maybe as you normally have. So excited to see how the team deals with that. With 3 games against good teams, you've got, the game against the Waves to sort of start off the week, a team that hasn't played much this year, that struggled, sort of an opportunity to hopefully get a first win out of the way and then really try and put some good wins together on the road.
Yeah, I think the challenge is really going to be that Wednesday, Thursday. They go up to Compton to play the Barons, and then they immediately go up to Slow the next day, which is not remotely close to Irvine at all. So that's going to be a tough haul. Compton not too far from Irvine. That shouldn't be that big of a deal, but immediately turning around and heading a really long drive up to Slow, that'll be a definite challenge for the Riptide, something they haven't had to do this summer. And then they get the off day on Friday before heading up to Ventura for the Oaks game. But I really think that Wednesday, Thursday away split is going to be a challenge for the Riptide and kind of show who the team is if they can respond well to that.
I 100% agree, especially with a home dominant schedule as well. Aidan and I were talking about 27 home games this season. That's a whole lot of home games. And hopefully you weren't able to hear my dog just now in the background barking, but either way, that brings us into our next segment of promotions. And I say that because there was Bark in the Park this past week. Gosh, was that amazing. Whole bunch of golden retrievers. I saw a pug down there that was absolutely amazing. That got me totally sidetracked before the game, but that was awesome. Let's talk about the promotions, though, for this upcoming week. So there is 2 home games for you guys to come to, and we would love to see you there. First one's going to be on Tuesday. That is against the Waves at 7. Baseball meets Hollywood, and we have a fun segment right after this playing off of that. And then on Sunday, it's going to be Riptide Rodeo. So make sure wear all your Western gear on Sunday. But going off the baseball meets Hollywood, kind of the movie theme of things, we're going to have a red carpet out there. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. So I've heard a red carpet. If you want to walk down a red carpet coming into the stadium, kind of cool. Speaking of red carpets, here's the fun segment. We got our favorite baseball movie. So obviously Riptide baseball team and baseball meets Hollywood. So let's go around. Let's hear our favorite baseball movies. Hopefully we hear some diverse answers. We don't just hear necessarily everyone choosing one movie. Let's start off. Aidan, you're in the top. Let's hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the classic Moneyball starring Brad Pitt. I think first off, it's just a great movie overall based on a true story. If you're a big baseball analytics person, you're gonna love it. But also, if you just love baseball in general, you're gonna enjoy the movie. It gives you kind of a behind the scenes look, and in my opinion, it's one of the best sports movies I've ever watched.
So you're not just going all of baseball movies; you're going all of sports movies.
Yeah, it's definitely a top 3 for me.
Wow. Okay, I like it though. I like that take. I think it's a good take. Huon, you're in the bottom left. Let's hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the classic. This is probably everybody's standard answer, but it's my favorite. I'm gonna go with The Sandlot. I think it's a classic. It's what every little kid who plays baseball, it's their dream of just getting a group of friends together and playing some baseball over the summer. It's a really classic, and the antagonist of the dog, and they end up all being friends in the end. And I think the 4th of July scene when they play under the fireworks is one of the best scenes in movie history. And then they go and they do the tobacco on the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster, and they all get sick from that. I just think it's a really fun summer movie. I never get tired of watching it.
I can't remember the amount of times that when I was younger at baseball camp, when we would have lunch, every single baseball camp, it felt like the entire week, our 30-minute lunch was broken into watching The Sandlot the entire week. And honestly, I don't remember complaining because that was, for me, one of my favorite movies, but not my favorite baseball movie. Sam, what was yours before we get to mine?
Mine was Major League, all-time classic from the 90s. There's just so many great characters in that film, from Wild Thing to Serrano to Lou Brown, the old manager. Like, there's just so many great characters in that film. It's a good movie. It's funny. It makes me laugh every single time. I've got a Major League poster in my dorm room at college, so I really love a good Major League watch whenever it's there. Major League One, not Major League Two or Three, but one was peak cinema right there.
I mean, you were talking about characters. We're all broadcasters here. How do we not even bring up Bob Uecker? I mean, he was just absolutely fantastic. He was amazing, but also not my favorite. My favorite baseball movie of all time. But drum roll, please. Field of Dreams. I think that it is an absolute classic. If you build it, he will come. We built Great Park. Well, we didn't, but hopefully you guys will come to the baseball game against the Waves. Be there at 7 o'clock. Now we're going to go rounding things out. We'll go a little bit quicker because we know this has already been a pretty long episode, number 2. We hope you have liked it. We got our Player of the Week roundtable. This is going to be a weekly segment where everyone has chosen their Player of the Week, and they're going to battle it out. And I'll see who I think is our Player of the Week based off of the arguments. So this is just going to be a wild cage match. I'm just going to let you guys go and see what happens.
Sure, I can start things off. So Carter Tans is my Player of the Week. I think he's been fantastic. He's come into this lineup, it's sort of his second week with the team. His first week, there were some highs, there were some lows, a lot of strikeouts. Did a great job of eliminating the Ks this week, was just putting good bat to ball, had a huge double that really set the tone for that blowout win against the Oaks, drove in 2 runs there. He played great defense all over the outfield. He was in right, he was in center, even had a day as a DH. So he was sort of doing it all for the Riptide. He's got blazing speed. He stole a bag this week. Really became a fixture in the top part of the Riptide lineup. He was as high as 3rd a couple times this week. So I think that Dan sort of has emerged as another star for the Riptide. And I think that he's really close to hitting a home run. He was about 5 feet away off a wall ball double there. So I think that Carter Dans was my Player of the Week. He was a huge part of the Riptide success all week long.
Yeah, he had 3 singles, 3 singles, a double, and then 3 RBIs. So he certainly had a great week. But do we think anybody else had better, or does other people have Dan's as well?
I have Jake Evans as my Player of the Week. I think he had a really good week, and he just continues to be a staple in the Riptide lineup. We saw him batting leadoff yesterday. He's another guy. If Rodney Navarro wasn't so good, that is a great candidate to be in that spot. He makes big plays on defense. We saw him at second base and also third base yesterday. And this is a guy who has an on-base percentage of 500. He's on a 7-game on-base streak, and no matter what, he just continues to find a way to get on. He's a trooper. I think he leads the team in hit by pitches at the moment as well.
Mm-hmm. He's been really good. He had 3 singles so far this week, and I can't even count the amount of walks and hit by pitches that he has. He just is always on base. He really is. And that's something that Coach Mayeaux said is when we can get that bat going where he's hitting well, and not to say he's not hitting well. Coming into Sunday's game, he was batting .270. If we can get that bat going even more, along with how many times he's hit by pitch, along with how many walks he can draw, man, is that 1-2 combo of Navarro and Evans going to be dangerous for literally every single team in the league. That's an automatic at least base runner anytime you pass those two. Huon, you got Evans or Dans, or you got someone else?
No, I'm gonna go with Johnny Rodriguez. I think he's my player of the week. It's kind of hard to pick someone from that Oaks game. It was a blowout. Everybody played pretty well, but Rodriguez, he had 4 RBIs, a couple of clutch hits. He had a double. He also played really good defense at first base. It's kind of a position you don't really think about when it comes to defense, but he did a good job of keeping some hits and potentially some runs off the board. I think we haven't seen his bat as much as we would like this summer, and that was kind of the introduction game for him. He kind of broke out there and had some good hits, and while he was a small part of the runs because they scored so many, he had a lot, and I think it gave him some confidence, and it just really propelled the rest of the team to that win as well.
All right, well, I think listening to the arguments, honestly, in my opinion, I had a player week as well, and I was waiting to see if any of you would say it, and you did. It was Aidan. I think that Jake Evans was definitely the player of the week. I quickly scribbled down I said it 3 singles and too many to count, and walks and hit by pitches. There's 4 walks. He drew 4 walks and then 2 hit by pitches. Came across to score 2 times alone in that game on Sunday against the Bombers. So definitely, I think the player of the week for the Riptide. But we didn't really even look necessarily toward the pitching side. I think that they definitely need a shout out as well. Van Ness struck out the side at one point, as well as Helman struck out the side. Everyone in the middle. Erspalmer had a great start as well. I think that Buckley had one really good inning. Suarez also. I could just read the entire bullpen if you really want me to. I think that they have certainly done good. But, my watch that I'm currently not wearing is buzzing, and it tells me that it's time for episode 2 to come to a close at some point close here. Any parting thoughts before we wave to the people at home and we tell them we'll see you next Tuesday? I don't think so. Aidan, do you? No? Looked like you opened your mouth.
All right. I guess if we're talking about parting words, I think we got to give a big round of applause to Coach Mayeaux, who filled in this weekend for Brian Evans. He's done a great job. He comes out pregame, works with the infielders. I think that's a big reason why the errors have decreased, and you can just tell he's a super passionate guy, and he has a big drive for the game, and you guys obviously respect him. So just a natural leader. Good job to Coach Mayeaux.
I think that was absolutely amazing. Perfect parting thoughts. He certainly went out with a bang as well, getting tossed. We talked about that this episode. We talked about a whole lot this episode. We hope that you enjoyed, and either way, we will see you next Tuesday. Till then, Aidan Pham, Huon Fitzpatrick, Sam Evans, Andrew Giesler. See you next week.